Mao Mao, in her home in the red light district, is asked to deliver some medicine to Verdigris' house by her father, who warns her to be wary of kidnappings that have been on the rise. Mao Mao obliges and leaves for the Verdigris house. Mao Mao tries to clean up a wound from one of her drug experiments. One of the famous princesses of this house, named Pyrin, greets her. Mao Mao's grandmother asks her if she'd like to be a courtesan, encouraging Ma Mao to leave. She admits this is a daily thing with her grandmother, and Mao Mao doesn't want anything to do with that occupation. On her way to the herb plot, Mao Mao curses the madame over how she always tries to make her into a courtesan. After she stops by the herb plot, she is kidnapped by human traffickers. Mao Mao laments her father being worried about her as the kidnappers reach their destination, the imperial palace. As winter falls, Lady Lihua gives birth to the prince with support of the rear palace physician. On the other side, Lady Gyokuyou is happy to hear the news of the safe birth of the prince as she holds her own daughter, Princess Lingli. 3 months flow by, and Mao Mao's concerned about her father. Since being kidnapped, Ma Mao believes she was ransomed or sold off to someone and misses her old life as an apothecary. She shares intel about the rear palace with the audience. She says it holds a garden of women who give birth to the emperor's children and don't allow men. Ma Mao claims only the emperor, his kin, and eunuchs, former males who lost an important part of their body, can enter the rear palace. It's made up of 2,000 concubines and servants and 1,000 eunuchs. She says the serving girls are disposable though. After she points her co-worker, Xiaolan, in the right direction, Mama continues explaining the rear palace lifestyle. She says most servants are illiterate and were only taught the bare minimum etiquette, not including reading or writing skills. Despite her status, Mao Mao would rather work in the lower class, get paid, and leave in 2 years than work toward a higher palace rank. Meanwhile, Lady Lihua and her child, looking ill. 2 gentlemen, one being Master Jinshi, converse about her condition and notice another woman's child is in poor condition. Jinshi tells her the physician is busy and may not have time to cater to her daughter, Xiaoling. While some servants gossip about the princess and her kin's illness, Xiaolan and her discuss a rear palace curse. Xiaolan states all 3 of the emperor's children have died due to illnesses. She says the doctor visited Lady Gyokuyou and Lihua and confirmed they're in terrible shape, confirming the curse's legitimacy. They discuss how Lihua is the emperor's current consort, meaning she's a very important figure to the emperor. Despite giving birth to his son, Xiaolan says there's a rumor brewing that the emperor likes Gyokuyou more. Mao Mao senses a power struggle at play and ponders over Lihua's illness. Although she doesn't want to get involved, something urges her to look into Lihua's situation more. Suddenly, Mao Mao notices Lihua and Gyokuyou confront each other publicly. Mao Mao questions why the doctor hasn't figured out a cure for their illnesses. She examines the situations closely and believes she knows the answer to their problems. She clearly understands that it's not a curse and tries to think of a way to discreetly inform the 2 concubines about the situation, looking for some writing material. As she leaves, Jinshi, who heard about the commotion and came along with Gaoshun to resolve the situation, ends up hearing Mao Mao's muttering and becomes surprised, but disregards it as having misheard it. While walking around the crystal pavilion, Xin notices a flower with a piece of cloth tied to it on windowsill, which she disregards and throws away. Unfortunately, Lihua's son passes away. A month passes and Jinshi visits Gyokuyou to ask her something. Gyokuyou tells Jinshi that when she visited the crystal pavilion to have her daughter examined, she found a note attached to a flower. It said not to let any babies near the plant since the white face power it holds is poisonous. She asks Jinshi to uncover who sent the note. Jinshi has a hunch Mao Mao sent the letter after briefly encountering her during Lihua and Gyokuyou's scuffle. Meanwhile, a man tells Mao Mao she must report to the matron of the serving women immediately with other serving girls. Jinshi introduces himself as the palace's manager as all the girls, except Ma Mao, adore his dashing looks. Jinshi tells the other girls to leave, except for Mao Mao. Mao Mao realizes Jinshi signaled her out, since she's the only servant who can read. Jinshi brings Mao Mao to Gyokuyou's room, and she thanks her for saving Xiaoling's life with the note. Mao Mao says she may have mistaken her for someone else. However, Jinshi takes out the note and says the fabric the person used to create it is made from the clothing serving girls wear. Jinshi asks Ma Mao to explain why she put the flower on the windowsill. Ma Mao explains how the high-end powder courtesans used contained poison, which led to Gyokuyou, Lihua, and their children's illnesses. Ma Mao says she used to work as an apothecary and knows about things of this nature. Gyokuyou presents Jinshi with a specific powder the nurse used for her child. She reveals she tried telling Lihua about the message, but Lihua wouldn't pay her any mind. Gyokuyou tells Ma Mao she'll be her new lady-in-waiting, a female assistant, from this point forward. Ma Mao leaves and panics because she wants to keep a low profile. Somewhere in the battlegrounds, 2 soldiers falling ill to poison present in the food. A man named Gyokuyou informs Jinshi of this matter and says the village leader is in custody due to possibly aiding the barbarians. They discuss Gyokuyou and Ma Mao's current working relationship. Jinshi confirms Gyokuyou has 4 female servants working for her, while Lihua has over 10. Although this makes Gyokuyou look lesser than Lihua, they state how Gyokuyou is more wise and cautious. Jinshi tells Gyokuyou he'll keep an eye on Ma Mao to prevent her from using her apothecary knowledge for nefarious purposes. Jinshi tries seducing Ma Mao the following day and asks her to serve Gyokuyou well. Ma Mao meets Hong Niang, Gyokuyou's head lady-in-waiting. She shows her around the Jade Pavilion. She meets the other lady-in-waiting named Yinghua, Guiyuan, and Ailan. They tell Ma Mao that Gyokuyou doesn't have servant girls and has her ladies-in-waiting perform tasks for her. Ma Mao offers to help, but the girl says she must go to her room as Gyokuyou has a special task for her. The girls gossip about Ma Mao's arm wound a bit as Ma Mao sits in her room and ponders. Jinshi tells Ma Mao that she's tasked with tasting poison. He says her previous tester used to get poisoned by the meals people prepped for her, and Gyokuyou herself got poisoned a few times. It is a job that nobody wants because it runs the risk of eating poison and possibly suffering a painful death. To Ma Mao, however, it was a rather exciting and fun job. Since she is a herbalist and is crazy about poison, it was the perfect job for her. As she tests the food for poison, Ma Mao confirms she experimented with many toxic chemicals back home and grew an immunity to poison. Jinshi and the others are baffled by Ma Mao's enjoyment of the task. Ma Mao tells Hong Niang it's best to switch to silver plates since they react to poison. Hong Niang says she should have mentioned her apothecary background when she arrived here because she would have gotten paid more. Ma Mao says she refused to let people know of her knowledge because she didn't want her kidnappers to make money off of her genius. Hong Niang gives Ma Mao her payment for the day, and Ma Mao realizes it's almost equal to her regular salary. However, this money won't go to her kidnappers. Meanwhile, Ma Mao performing more poison testing duties, and she's started to grow bored with it all. Jinshi decided to test Ma Mao once more by presenting her with a gift he received from a military official. It was dumplings that were mixed with aphrodisiac. On first inspection, Ma Mao knew right away what the dumplings contained. She quickly advised Jinshi to be careful for whomever gave him those dumplings, for they might visit him later that night. She then gave Jinshi a scowling look, mocking him for offering her food, knowing full well that it contains aphrodisiac. However, Jinshi doesn't want to indulge in them. Jinshi tells Ma Mao about the incident involving the soldiers and the village leader. Ma Mao asks him about the location they ate at and what utensils they used. She presents him with a theory regarding the firewood the soldiers used during their feast and says it could have had poison in it. Pleased with her talent, Jinshi decided to test her one last time by asking her if she could make aphrodisiac. Ma Mao wanted to reply with a no, but realizing that saying yes may allow her to play with herbs, she abruptly replied that she could. Ma Mao leaves the next day to visit the palace's doctor and Gyokuyou, Jinshi's assistant. He leads her to a room where she can make the aphrodisiac. Upon entering the medicine room, Ma Mao went into a trance and started to dance. As she thought, her love for herbs is second to none. Ma Mao prepared the ingredients and brought it to the Jade Palace. She mixed them together in a specific way to form a sort of chocolate-coated aphrodisiac. She then coated the fruit, cut up with the aphrodisiac, and carefully cooled it in a jar. As for the remaining chocolate, she decided to mix it with bread and save it for later. When she came back, she discovered that the aphrodisiac-coated bread that she made had been mistakenly eaten by Lady Gyokuyou's 3 lower ladies-in-waiting and experienced the effects of aphrodisiac after presenting the aphrodisiac and other drugs to Gyokuyou. Now, Jinshi knew that Mao Mao was not only good at inspecting herbs and poison, but a master at making them as well. With everyone gone, Mao Mao decided to clean up. But before she could, she was suddenly embraced from behind by Jinshi, who thanked her for her good work. She then felt a warm peck on the nape of her neck that felt like a kiss. When she turned around, Jinshi was already outside the door. She then turned to look at the tray and discovered that one of the chocolate breads was gone. At midnight, a strange man roaming on top of the castle wall. Lately, there'd been rumors of a ghost clad in white roaming on top of the castle wall. They called her the White Spectre. Lihua had been telling Mao Mao all about it as they make their rounds for the day. As Mao Mao finishes her work, she made a detour to the infirmary to get some herbs that she wanted. There, the doctor greeted her with a smile. Ever since he found out that Mao Mao was good at making herbs, his image of her had changed for the better. Jinshi appeared and began to talk with Mao Mao about the case of the White Spectre, particularly sleepwalking. Mao Mao was interested in it, but knew she could do nothing about it. For sleepwalking wasn't a physical illness, but a mental illness, and she was a herbalist, not a psychiatrist. Despite answering so, Jinshi wasn't going to take no for an answer, and being overly touchy with Mao Mao only prompted Mao Mao to comply so that Jinshi would leave her alone. And thus, Mao Mao agreed to investigate the so-called White Spectre for Jinshi. She stayed up late that night and met up with Gyokuyou. When they arrived at the rumoured place, what they saw wasn't a ghost, but a beautiful moonflower. At the top of the castle wall was a beautifully consort clad in white. She was dancing lucidly like a flower being gently blown by the wind. The beauty she shone under the half moon that night rivals that of high consort Gyokuyou and Lihua themselves. When Mao Mao uttered the name Moonflower, Gyokuyou replied that the name of the consort was Lady Fuyu, and that she is to be bestowed as an honor to a military officer in the upcoming month. The next morning, Mao Mao consulted with the doctor about Lady Fuyu. The doctor told Mao Mao that she was a princess of a vassal state of Ri. She was brought into the inner palace to be the consort of the emperor, but the night she arrived, she ungraciously fell during a dance in front of the emperor, which caused her to lose the emperor's favor. Afterwards, she confined herself to her quarters and hadn't gotten a visit from the emperor since. As she discovered that she was going to be bestowed to a military official, she started to roam the night like a spectre. Upon gaining this information, Mao Mao went to Jinshi to report her findings. She repeated that unlike physical illness, sleepwalking was a mental illness that she was powerless to cure. All she could do was provide herbs to calm the mind. Mao Mao then went on to talk about a similar situation she witnessed in the verdigris house. Mao Mao told Jinshi and Lady Gyokuyou of a courtesan who began to sleepwalk after she found out that she was being sold to a man who was old enough to be her grandfather. When the offer was cancelled, the sleepwalking stopped. Hearing the story, Lady Gyokuyou commented that the sleepwalking must have been brought about because the courtesan didn't want to be sold to the old man. Mao Mao nodded in agreement. After reporting to Jinshi and Lady Gyokuyou, Mao Mao excused herself and returned to her post. Lady Gyokuyou asked Mao Mao what she really thought of the situation. Mao Mao then humbly told another story of a different courtesan of the verdigris house. This courtesan too was being sold to man, and she started sleepwalking. In the end, the offer got cancelled. But immediately after the offer was cancelled, another man made an offer to buy the courtesan. The offer went through, and the courtesan was sold to the man at half the price. To simply put it, the man who made the first offer was a friend of the second man. The two of them worked together with the courtesan to bring down the brothel's buying price. Since the second man didn't have enough money to buy the courtesan at the time, he asked his friend to make the first offer. When the courtesan faked her sleeping walking, the first offer was cancelled, which dropped her value. That was when the second man stepped in to make a second offer and bought her for half the price. Mao Mao explained this to Lady Gyokuyou and told her that Lady Fuyu's situation was similar to this courtesan. Mao Mao suspected that Lady Fuyu was already in love with the officer, who also happened to be her childhood friend, but was forced to become a consort. So in order to avoid the emperor's advances, she purposely fell in front of the emperor to lose his favor. She then confined herself so that the emperor wouldn't visit her, so she could preserve her chastity. And when her childhood friend finally earned enough to come for her, she pretended to sleepwalk and roam the castle at night. This was to prevent the emperor from visiting her at the last moment before she was bestowed. She did all of this not because of an illness, but so that she could be reunited with her beloved who was coming to save her. As Lady Gyokuyou and Mao Mao watched Lady Fuyu leave the inner palace in happiness, Lady Gyokuyou asked Mao Mao if envying Lady Fuyu would make her a petty woman. Mao Mao shook her head to say no in reply. Mao Mao understood all too well that despite Lady Gyokuyou being a favored consort, she was not the only consort that the emperor fancied. More to it than that, the relationship between Lady Gyokuyou and the emperor was born of politics and not of love. Any woman in Lady Gyokuyou's position would be jealous of Lady Fuyu, a princess in distress who was saved by her knight in shining armor. She was beautiful, not because of her beauty, but because of her love. Mao Mao thought to herself, if love can make a woman so beautiful, she wondered what kind of medicine she could make with it, should she ever obtain it. Like usual, Mao Mao went about her duties of food tasting. Tonight, the emperor has come to visit Lady Gyokuyou, and Mao Mao is needed. After doing her job, Mao Mao quietly bowed her head and slowly moved away to excuse herself from the room. But before she could leave, the emperor raised his voice to make a request from Mao Mao. Lady Lihua's condition is bad, and he wants Mao Mao to take a look at her. Such a request from the emperor could only be interpreted as heaven's command. Mao Mao could only accept. And should Mao Mao fail to cure Lady Lihua, her head wouldn't sit long on her shoulders. Such was the nature of dealing with the emperor. More to it than that, the fact that the emperor had the nerve to talk about the well-being of another high consort in front of Lady Gyokuyou just goes to show that he is truly the emperor. Everyone was his subject, and for him to use as he pleases. With the task clear, Mao Mao left the Jade Pavilion and entered into the Crystal Pavilion as a court apprentice. But needless to say, she was unwelcome by many there. Not only was she a servant of a rival consort, she is of low born. This caused the personnel of the Crystal Pavilion to treat her like trash. All her attempts to examine and vitalize Lady Lihua were shut down. Mao Mao sighed in dismay as she counts the number of days she has left before her head falls. That was when Jinshi appeared before her and offered his help. Mao Mao reluctantly accepts. With Jinshi's influence, Mao Mao was able to pass the hindering ladies-in-waiting and made her way towards Lady Lihua. After a few seconds of examining the sick consort, Mao Mao turned around to glare at the ladies-in-waiting in rage. She asked the person who was in charge of the lady's makeup. A lady came forth with an arrogant tone to proudly announce that she was the one who had the honor of making Lady Lihua beautiful. Upon hearing the answer, Mao Mao raises her hand in anger and slaps the lady across the face. She then dragged the lady by her hair to the cosmetic cabin and poured face powder onto the crying lady's head. The reason why Lady Lihua had not recovered was because this lady had been using the poisonous face powder on her, the very face powder that killed Lady Lihua's son and led her to this condition in the first place. When asked by Mao Mao why she continued to use the powder despite being told that it was poison, the lady replied that Lady Lihua liked it the most. Mao Mao scorned at her once more and asked her if she could bring herself to like a poison that killed her own child. Realizing her wrongdoing, the lady surrendered herself in silence. With that, Mao Mao released the lady. She then commanded the other ladies-in-waiting to clean up the mess while she got ready to heal Lady Lihua. Upon closer inspection, Mao Mao realized that Lady Lihua was in dire condition. The lady was too weak to consume food, which only further weakened her even more. With no choice, Mao Mao began to force Easy to digest food into Lady Lihua's mouth. Jinshi appeared before Mao Mao and offered his help. They prepared a steam bath for Lady Lihua so that she can recover her strength quickly. After a few weeks, the lady regained a small portion of her strength and weakly asked Mao Mao a question. She asked Mao Mao why she didn't let her die. Mao Mao replied that if the lady wanted to die, all she had to do was stop eating. And the fact that she continued to eat was proof that she wanted to live. With that answer, Lady Lihua regained her motivation to live and decided to continue on living. The lady-in-waiting who got put in confinement tells Mao Mao she's allowed to serve Lihua again. She asks Mao Mao to get rest and promises not to make the same mistake again. After carefully tending to Lady Lihua for a month, Lady Lihua slowly regained her strength and was able to walk about on her own again. With her job done, Mao Mao decided to return to the Jade Pavilion. But before she left, Lady Lihua asked Ma Mao if it was still possible for her to get pregnant. Ma Mao replied that she didn't know and that the lady would have to try in order to find out. When Lady Lihua replied that she might not get visited by the emperor anymore since she had lost the emperor's favor, Ma Mao replied that Lady Lihua had her own weapons and should use that to regain the emperor's favor. Before Ma Mao leaves, she left Lady Lihua with a parting gift. More specifically, a sexual technique that she learned from the courtesans at the red light district, a technique that utilized her large bosom to satisfy their partner. After giving Lady Lihua her advice, Ma Mao returned to the Jade Pavilion. And for an entire month after, the only consort the emperor visited was Lady Lihua. When Lady Gyokuyou commented on how she could get some rest now that the emperor is visiting less, Ma Mao couldn't help but feel guilty about the emperor's lack of visits to the Jade Pavilion. Jinshi practices swordsmanship in a training duel. While Jinshi is thoughtful and calculated in his approach, his opponent is far more forceful and aggressive. Ma Mao takes some downtime to pick some mushrooms for herself. Her gleeful discoveries bring a smile as she gathers her secret delights and concocts a way to indulge in them without having others learn of their origins. Ma Mao visits the palace's doctor and informs him of the mushroom she found during her break. He helps her make a meal out of it. Just as the pair finishes dining on their secret treats, a man arrives seeking aid in the curing of a curse. With huge rashes spreading across his palms, the man claims he was cursed recently as he burned items of trash, as is his job. When he threw some clothes and some wooden writing tablets in, the flames began to change colors and he found the rashes spreading on his hands. After preparing a salve for the man's rashes, Ma Mao calmly demonstrates to the man how different chemicals can cause fire to burn in different colors, much like fireworks. The chemistry lesson is interrupted as Jinshi arrives seeking Ma Mao so he can discuss similar matters with her. The line of questioning draws Ma Mao to suspect that the wooden tablets may be used to pass secret information to people. But while these concepts are concerning, she shrugs them off as far beyond a food taster's concerns. When Ma Mao left her room to do her daily tasks, she found the atmosphere of the Jade Pavilion oddly chaotic. She then came upon Yinghua, who presented her with a dress. After putting on the dress, Yinghua and the rest of the ladies in waiting begin to explain to Ma Mao that she needed the dress for the Winter Garden Party. It is an event where the emperor invites his civil and military officials along with his high consorts to a garden feast. Since Lady Gyokuyou only had a few lady attendants, Ma Mao was expected to attend as well. Hearing that she was going to attend the garden party, Ma Mao decided to make preparations for the cold. She sewed an undergarment filled with pockets so that she could stuff warm rocks inside to warm herself. It was a technique that poor people utilized to remain warm over the winter. Upon learning of this, all the ladies-in-waiting and court officials within the Jade Pavilion, and even those that were outside, began to bombard Ma Mao with requests for her to make some for them as well. With her days filled with requests, Ma Mao wasn't able to prepare for anything else before the garden party arrived. On the day of the party, Lady Gyokuyou was dressed up by her ladies-in-waiting elegantly with a magnificent red dress and flashy decor. She then went to her jewelry box and gave each of her ladies-in-waiting some jewelry that signifies her as a symbol. It was a symbol to show that they were her attendants and anyone messing with them will be messing with her. The jewelry that Ma Mao obtained from Lady Gyokuyou was a gold necklace decorated with jade. With the jewelry done, next was the cosmetics. Yinghua and the other maids excitedly hovered over Ma Mao as they smiled in delight. But upon wiping her face, they discovered that Ma Mao's freckles were fake and that the muddy look that Ma Mao had put on all this entire time was actually a ruse. While Ma Mao and the ladies-in-waiting prepared for the garden party, Jinshi was roaming around the inner palace, visiting all the high consorts as he went. As the manager of the inner palace, Jinshi was obligated to be impartial and fair to all the high consorts. But lately, he'd been visiting the Jade Pavilion more. Not because he fancied Lady Gyokuyou, but because he fancied the newly appointed lady-in-waiting that had been appointed recently. As Jinshi quickly greeted Lady Gyokuyou and Princess Lingli, he made his way to Ma Mao, who left him awestruck. The Ma Mao, whose face was filled with freckles now, had the charm of a dazzling princess. Seeing her like that left Jinshi speechless for a moment. After regaining his composure, Jinshi made an offhand comment about how good the makeup that she had on was. That was when Ma Mao explained to Jinshi that her current look was because she took the makeup off. She explains to him that not all makeup were for the purpose of looking pretty, and that her freckles were fake. When Jinshi asked why she would put on fake freckles, she explained that it was for protective measures. The red light district is filled with bad men who would rape defenseless women. If she has the appearance of an ugly woman, the chance of her getting raped will be lowered. Worried, Jinshi asked if Ma Mao had ever been raped. Ma Mao replied that it was only attempted. But then she replied that instead of being raped, she was kidnapped and sold into the inner palace instead. Jinshi apologized in reply for having a hand in her kidnapping. Seeing Jinshi's sad expression, Ma Mao casually replied that it wasn't his fault. Even though it is illegal to kidnap people to sell, unless the person who buys you reports it, no measures were usually taken. After listening to her story, Jinshi removed his hairpin and placed it into Ma Mao's hair. With a blushing face, he told her that she can have it and quickly left. After Jinshi left, Ma Mao removes the hairpin that was stuck into her head to examine it. It was a high-class fancy ornament made for males, and the rest of the ladies-in-waiting who looked like they wanted the hairpin for themselves. Seeing their expression, Ma Mao didn't hesitate to offer the hairpin. Seeing that Ma Mao had received jewelry from Jinshi, Lady Gyokuyou slowly stepped forward to tie the hairpin into Ma Mao's hair, saying that now Ma Mao was not only her attendant anymore. Ma Mao, who still didn't understand the significance of the jewelry, could only speculate to herself as they left for the garden party. Next part of the video is coming soon. Thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel.